Toxic parents and adult children. Navigating complex family dynamics. The relationship between parents and children is often described as one of the most important and formative connections in a person's life. However, when this relationship becomes toxic, particularly between parents and their adult children, it can create profound emotional distress and confusion. Toxic parenting, especially in adulthood, is particularly damaging because it complicates the natural desire to honor and respect one's parents, a value deeply rooted in many cultures. Yet, when the toxic behavior of a parent infringes on the well-being of their adult child, it presents a dilemma that is both unfair in its scope and unsustainable in its duration. This dynamic is further complicated by societal expectations, which often discourage people from cutting ties with toxic family members. In many cultures, family loyalty and honoring parents are paramount, creating pressure for individuals to endure toxic relationships. This leads to a difficult conundrum. How does one balance the obligation to respect parents with the need to protect oneself from harmful behavior? Understanding and addressing this dilemma requires a careful examination of the emotional, cultural, and psychological factors involved, as well as the broader implications for personal well-being. Toxic parenting refers to behaviors that undermine a child's emotional or psychological well-being, including manipulation, emotional abuse, control, and neglect. While these behaviors are often associated with childhood, they can persist well into adulthood, creating long-lasting damage. Toxic parents may attempt to control their adult children's decisions, invade their privacy, or use guilt and emotional manipulation to maintain power in the relationship. These patterns can lead to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and confusion in adult children, who often feel trapped between their desire to break free and their societal or personal obligations to care for their parents. Consider the example of Sarah, a 35-year-old professional, who finds herself constantly at odds with her mother. Her mother frequently belittles her career choices, undermines her romantic relationships, and insists that Sarah is ungrateful despite her best efforts to maintain the relationship. Every interaction leaves Sarah feeling drained and uncertain about her self-worth, but she feels obligated to stay connected because of the cultural expectation to honor her mother. This creates a cycle of resentment and emotional exhaustion, one that Sarah finds difficult to escape. In many cultures, the expectation to honor and care for one's parents is deeply ingrained. Religious and cultural traditions often emphasize filial piety, or respect for one's parents, as a moral obligation. For instance, in many Asian cultures, Confucian ideals stress the importance of family hierarchy and respect for elders. Similarly, in Judeo-Christian traditions, the commandment to honor thy father and mother is considered a foundational moral duty. This cultural pressure makes it difficult for adult children to set boundaries or distance themselves from toxic parents. Cutting ties with a parent, even one who exhibits toxic behavior, is often seen as a violation of these cultural norms, leading to feelings of guilt and shame. Adult children may fear judgment from their communities or even internalize the belief that they are being disloyal or disrespectful by standing up for themselves. This can create an emotional conflict that feels nearly impossible to resolve. As psychotherapist and author Dr. Carol McBride explains, toxic parents make their children feel as if they are the problem. This conditioning often leaves adult children feeling responsible for maintaining the relationship at all costs, even when it is harmful to their own well-being. The emotional toll of dealing with toxic parents as an adult is significant. Studies have shown that individuals who grew up with emotionally abusive or manipulative parents are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem in adulthood. According to a 2014 study published in Psychological Science, individuals who reported negative relationships with their parents in childhood were more likely to experience long-term mental health issues, including difficulties forming healthy relationships and increased vulnerability to stress. For adult children, the impact of toxic parenting extends beyond childhood. Toxic parents may continue to interfere in their children's lives, from undermining their romantic relationships to making demands on their time and resources. The constant stress of trying to manage these relationships can take a toll on the adult child's mental health, career, and personal life. Adult children may feel as though they are constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid conflict while also feeling a sense of obligation to meet their parents' expectations. This dynamic can lead to what psychologist Dr. Susan Forward calls emotional blackmail, where toxic parents use guilt, fear, or obligation to control their adult children. In her book, Toxic Parents, Forward writes, when parents manipulate their children using guilt or shame, they create a toxic cycle that is difficult to break. Adult children often feel they have no choice but to comply, even when it comes at the expense of their own well-being. One of the most important steps adult children can take when dealing with toxic parents is to set clear boundaries. This can be incredibly difficult, especially in cultures where family loyalty is emphasized, but it is essential for protecting one's mental and emotional health. Setting boundaries might involve limiting contact with the toxic parent, refusing to engage in conversations that are harmful, or seeking professional help to navigate the complexities of the relationship. Boundaries do not mean cutting a parent out of one's life completely, although in some cases, this may be necessary for personal well-being. Instead, boundaries help to redefine the relationship in a way that is healthier for both parties. As therapist Nedra Glover-Tawwab explains, boundaries are not about being disrespectful, they are about taking care of yourself. They help us maintain our sense of self-worth and protect us from being overwhelmed by the needs and demands of others. For some adult children, establishing boundaries may involve having difficult conversations with their parents about the impact of their behavior. While this can be emotionally challenging, it is often the first step toward healing and reclaiming a sense of control over one's life. In other cases, professional therapy or counseling can provide the support needed to navigate these conversations and develop strategies for managing the relationship. For many adult children, the idea of cutting ties with a toxic parent remains taboo, even when the relationship is harmful. However, societal attitudes toward this issue are beginning to shift. As more people become aware of the lasting impact of toxic parenting, there is growing recognition that maintaining a relationship with a toxic parent is not always the best course of action. In some cases, distancing oneself from a toxic parent may be necessary for personal growth and mental health. The decision to cut ties with a parent is never easy, and it often comes with feelings of guilt and loss. However, as more individuals speak openly about their experiences with toxic parents, the stigma surrounding this decision is gradually diminishing. By challenging the cultural norms that pressure individuals to maintain harmful relationships, society can create space for people to prioritize their well-being without fear of judgment. Navigating a relationship with a toxic parent is one of the most challenging experiences an adult child can face. The societal expectation to honor one's parents often conflicts with the need to protect one's mental and emotional health. However, by setting boundaries and seeking support, adult children can begin to reclaim control over their lives and break free from the toxic dynamics that have shaped their relationship. Ultimately, honoring one's parents does not mean enduring abuse or manipulation. True respect is built on mutual care and understanding, and when that is absent, individuals have the right to prioritize their own well-being. As society continues to evolve, it is essential to recognize that toxic relationships, whether between parents and children or otherwise, should not be sustained simply out of a sense of duty. By encouraging open conversations and challenging harmful cultural norms, we can create a healthier, more compassionate approach to family relationships.